There's a moment that almost nobody talks about. You're lying next to someone you love. Maybe they're asleep already. Maybe they're scrolling beside you. Maybe you just finished another conversation that somehow turned into tension again. And the strange part is, nothing even exploded. No screaming, no dramatic betrayal. Just distance. Quiet distance. The kind where you can physically feel another person beside you and still feel emotionally abandoned. And your mind starts going there. Why do I feel so alone when I'm not alone? Why do I keep shrinking in relationships? Why do I always end up exhausted trying to hold everything together? When did loving someone start feeling like performing for them? Am I too much or not enough? And here's the truth nobody explains to you honestly. The woman you become in love is shaped less by how deeply you care and more by how deeply you've learned to abandon yourself to keep connection alive. That's the part most people miss. You are not failing at love. You are not hard to love. And this is not proof that you chose the wrong person. Every woman who has ever deeply loved someone has stood exactly where you're standing. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the transformation that changes everything. The shift from performing love to becoming whole inside it. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Let's get into it. Most couples believe relationship problems start when communication breaks down. But the real truth is, disconnection starts much earlier than that. It starts the moment one person begins editing themselves to stay emotionally safe. That's where the drift begins. Because your nervous system is always asking one silent question beneath the surface. Can I still be fully myself here? And if the answer slowly becomes no, even subtly, even unconsciously, your body starts adapting before your mind catches up. You over-explain. You become hyper-aware of their moods. You stop bringing things up. You become easygoing. You suppress needs before they can become conflict. Most people think this is maturity. It's not. It's self-abandonment, wearing the costume of emotional control. And here's what changes everything. The whole woman is not the woman who never gets triggered. Not the woman who never needs reassurance. Not the woman who always stays calm and perfectly healed. The whole woman is the woman who stays connected to herself while loving someone else. That's the transformation. Because when safety leaves a relationship, love doesn't disappear, it goes underground. And people start fighting over dishes, tone, texting habits, affection, timing. While the real wound underneath is much deeper. I don't feel emotionally safe being fully me with you anymore. Bro, that changes the way you see everything. And once you understand that, you stop trying to become more desirable and start becoming more real. Number 1, the end of performing. Here's the part no one talks about. Most couples slowly build relationships around performance instead of presence. One person becomes the caretaker, the peacekeeper, the strong one, the emotionally available one. And over time, they stop asking themselves a dangerous question. Who am I when I'm not managing everyone else's emotions? The deeper truth is this. Many women learned very early that love felt safest when they were useful, easy, needed, emotionally accommodating. So their nervous system starts associating connection with self-erasure. That pattern becomes automatic, not because they're weak, because they adapted. And you see it in small moments. The disconnecting version sounds like this. It's fine, don't worry about it. Even though she's hurt. The connecting version sounds like this. Honestly, I'm trying not to minimize this anymore. I know it seems small, but it mattered to me. That sentence changes everything. Because now her body is no longer betraying itself just to avoid tension. And when you do that, the walls between you start coming down without either of you having to say a word. 2, she stops confusing attention with love. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Most people in relationships chase attention when what they actually crave is emotional safety. Huge difference. Attention can feel intoxicating. Safety feels steady. Attention says, look at me. Safety says, you can exhale here. But here's what nobody explains. If your attachment wounds were built around inconsistency, your nervous system may mistake emotional chaos for chemistry. The highs feel magnetic. The uncertainty feels exciting. The emotional unavailability feels familiar. Not because it's healthy, because it's recognizable. So she keeps chasing people who activate longing instead of connection. Her inner voice quietly says, if I can finally get this person to fully choose me, maybe I'll finally feel worthy. That's not love. That's survival attachment. The disconnecting version sounds like, why are you pulling away? Did I do something wrong? The connecting version sounds like, I notice you withdrawing, and instead of panicking, I want to understand what's happening between us. Feel the difference there. One response comes from fear of abandonment. The other comes from emotional groundedness. And that's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like emotional gambling into one that feels like home. 3. She learns that boundaries create intimacy. Not distance, not punishment, not emotional walls, but clarity. Most couples think boundaries ruin connection because they've only ever seen boundaries used during resentment, during shutdown, during emotional exhaustion. But healthy boundaries are not rejection. They are truth spoken early enough that resentment never has to grow. And here's what changes everything. A woman who cannot say no eventually loses the ability to fully say yes, because her nervous system no longer trusts her own consent. That's deep. Most people in relationships don't realize this, man. They think emotional closeness comes from endless availability. But intimacy without self-respect slowly becomes obligation. And obligation kills desire. The disconnecting version sounds like, whatever you want is fine. But internally, her body is saying, I'm disappearing again. The connecting version sounds like, I love you, but I need space tonight to reconnect with myself so I can actually show up fully tomorrow. That isn't selfishness. This isn't a communication hack. This is what emotionally mature love naturally looks like. And when that happens, your partner stops feeling like someone you have to manage and starts feeling like someone you can actually meet honestly. 4. She stops mothering emotionally unavailable men. This is where it gets really interesting. Most couples don't realize how often romantic relationships slowly become emotional parent-child dynamics. One person carries the emotional labor, tracks the connection, initiates repair, names the problems, holds the emotional temperature of the relationship. And eventually, she becomes exhausted. Not because she doesn't love him, because she no longer feels partnered. But here's the deeper truth beneath the surface. Women who overfunction emotionally are often unconsciously trying to earn reciprocity instead of requiring it. That pattern usually comes from old attachment conditioning. Somewhere along the line, love became associated with emotional overgiving. So she keeps thinking, if I just explain myself better, maybe he'll finally understand. But emotionally available relationships are not built through emotional chasing. They're built through mutual presence. The disconnecting version sounds like, can you please just talk to me for once? The connecting version sounds like, I want emotional reciprocity in my relationships now. I'm no longer willing to carry connection alone. That sentence changes her entire identity. Because now she's no longer auditioning for partnership. She's choosing it. And that's when love stops feeling like emotional labor and starts feeling real again. 5. She becomes the safe place she kept searching for. And here's what nobody explains. The final transformation isn't becoming less emotional, less sensitive, less needy. It's becoming emotionally anchored enough that your sense of worth no longer rises and falls based on another person's availability. That's the whole woman. Most people think healing means becoming impossible to hurt. No. Healing means you stop abandoning yourself every time you are hurt. There's a massive difference. Because when someone pulls away, the old version of her spirals. What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? How do I get them back? But the whole version pauses and asks something radically different. What does this situation reveal about the kind of love I'm willing to participate in now? That question changes your life. Because now, relationships stop being places where you lose yourself trying to be chosen and start becoming places where you practice staying connected to who you really are. And when you do that, something incredible happens beneath the surface. Your nervous system softens. Your communication changes. Your standards become clearer. Your presence becomes calmer. And people can feel it immediately. Not because you became perfect, because you became real. This isn't a checklist. It's an identity shift. This is about becoming the kind of woman who no longer confuses self-sacrifice with love, who no longer abandons herself to maintain connection, who understands that real intimacy begins the moment you stop performing and start showing up honestly. And when you internalize this, you stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from wholeness. Your partner feels the difference before you even say a word. Because the deepest transformation in love is not finding someone who finally chooses you. It's finally becoming someone who refuses to leave herself behind in order to be chosen.